Hello, welcome to Pittsburgh Sportsline. We have another great show all set up for you. Mike Migliori took another sick day, and we're going to start the show with Al Levine, the talking machine. I have a few credits here, but I do want to announce my co-host, Chip Hayner, and Smokin' Jim Frazier, because it may be a few minutes as I go through the public announcements. First, there's a new coffee shop that's opening up, and the coffee shop's up there on Church and South Park Road, and it's a David and Carol are the owners of this shop. They just opened up this week.
Say that again?
It'll be open from 6:30 to 9:30. We're getting a lot of feedback here, fellas and girls. Well, anyhow, go stop at their shop. You get coffee and some sweet treats and everything, and it'll be a nice day there. The other thing, last week I was at the Cozy Cafe, and I got to give a shout out to the chef, Yo Adrian, and that's a guy. There were over 20 people there, and my friends, we had a 4- and 5-course meal that was just fantastic, from soup to salads to lasagna to a pasta dish, and they even had desserts if you wanted it. And the best price for me, it was free because I was with this national organization of women business owners, and they had a nice little event at the Kingsley Event Center.
You poor thing.
Right. So it was rough, but I figured I'd give you that shout out.
Somebody's got to throw himself on a grenade.
Somebody has to do it once in a while, so that happens there. But I did want to tell you about those type of things. And, then I'm still working on that hug-a-thon at the races. That's June 13th. Come to the Meadows. Give me a call. You can find me, Al Levine, 412-973-9611. But if you want to call our show, 412-831-3304. Give us a call because we're short one co-host. We may need somebody else to fill some of this time. So, Smokin' Jim, what's on your mind?
Thanks, Talking Machine. I appreciate it. Hey, we got another Smokin' Jim classic. I tell you what, awesome. A lot of you guys don't know there's a lot of talent in Clairton, Pennsylvania. Clairton High School's football team has won a state championship a number of years. But the outstanding sprinter for Clairton named Trenton Coles, who won this state sprint championship as a sophomore and a junior. In December at the state football championships, he tore his ACL, and they immediately announced that his high school athletic career was over. Pitt was still going to honor the scholarship. Usually an ACL takes about a year to heal up. Well, this past week, the number one sprinter in the state is a guy named Moody, fortunately from the same high school, Clairton High School, and he's a roommate of Trenton Coles. And Trenton Coles happened to be hanging around, limping around a little bit at the WPIL finals. He asked, can he get into the 100-meter dash just to see what his time would be. He won the race against Moody in a photo finish. So that's outstanding. Trenton Coles is going to defend his state 100-meter championships this weekend in Shippensburg, and he'll probably have to outrun his roommate, his cousin, Moody, to do it, that runs a 10.6 100-meter dash. So I think that's outstanding. There you go with another Smokin' Jim classic.
Smokin' Jim, you pull out some of these things. It's just phenomenal. Where do you get this? Do you ever sleep, my friend? You must be up 24/7 just to get this information. Well, with no further ado, we got Chip Hayner, the prophet here. What's your prediction on what's on your mind?
Well, thanks, Alan. Just a little public service announcement. My wife and I are collecting money for the March for Babies, which is June 10th. It'll be down at Heinz Field. It'll start there. It ends up at PNC Park. It is a really worthy cause. If you're interested in contributing, you could go for marchforbabies.org. Type in I am Chipper. And if you're interested, donate money to the Hayner's Angels team.
Chip, could you do it again? just because this is on YouTube, so we'll get a lot of other people. We're getting some attention.
Well,
with that.
The link is marchforbabies.org. To log in would be the IM Chipper, and the Hainer Angels team is the team that we're accepting donations for. Last year, my wife and I, in just a very short period of time, collected about $1,100 in donations, and we've upped our goal to $2,500 for this year. We've got 2 or 3 weeks, and we're making headway, but anything anybody could do would be greatly appreciated. What's on my mind? A couple of things that have just been kind of sticking in my craw in the sports world. The first one being Bonusgate. It hasn't gone away, and it is not going to go away anytime soon, because Jonathan Vilma has gone ahead and sued the commissioner of the National Football League, Roger Goodell, because he didn't feel that he had the right to discipline him for his part in the Bonusgate. Now, this is really interesting, because what it appears that Jonathan Vilma is attempting to do is to take away the commissioner's power or ability to be able to punish the players. Now, how this is going to affect the collective bargaining agreement will be a very interesting thing to see. And apparently the NFL is pretty happy with the way Roger Goodell is running the NFL and the way he's doling out punishment. And, oh, by the way, the Cowboys and the Redskins both had their appeal denied for being grossly over the salary cap, because the person that hands down the punishments is the same person that listens to the appeals. So
anybody listening to the show knows that. He's the judge, the jury,
and the
executioner.
executioner. Yeah. And the other thing that is just moving along painfully slow is the Roger Clemens trial, because the government of the United States is trying to prove that Roger Clemens lied. Who cares? They've got a witness on the stand, and they've had him on the stand for 6 days, Brian McNamee, who is allegedly the person that injected Roger Clemens, Jose Canseco, Andy Pettit, and a number of other different athletes. And, the thing that amazes me is that the government hung their hat on this Brian McNamee to go ahead and prove that Roger Clemens lied, because I'm sure that's a crime worse than death. But, this guy has changed his story 6 or 7 times over the last 7 or 8 years. And if I was a juror, I don't know if you'd be privy to that information, but how can you believe anything that this guy says? I think the defense should have a pretty easy time shooting him full of holes, but yet they still keep him on the stand for 5 or 6 days, still putting jurors to sleep, and, wasting our time and our tax dollars. But that's what's on my mind, Alan.
Chip, it just won't leave your mind there, buddy. You're focused on that.
It's sticking me like a burr,
And Alan, Chip, let me ask you this, get back to the bounty gate. I mean, this thing may be more serious than we've given it credence to, because the Jonathan Vilma, it has a defamation suit against the commissioner. So if the commissioner now, this is going to the courts. So if Jonathan Vilma is right in saying that, hey, he's never given anybody any money for the bounties, and he has a serious defamation suit, maybe this is something that will bring Roger Goodell down. What do you guys think?
I think that there's a very strong possibility that may happen. And, and the thing about it is that the commissioner must have felt, and I could only assume this because I don't know, but he must have felt that the evidence that he has against these, the coaches, the players involved in everything must be pretty ironclad. And if that is the case, I mean, what is he waiting for? Share this with the rest of the world. Let us know what is going on, because, he's playing his cards very close to his vest. We don't know any of this evidence that they say they have, which is supposed to be ironclad. And is it? That would be interesting to see. But yes, this very easily could bring down the commissioner. And if it does that, what's that do to the collective bargaining agreement? Because, the approval of the owners, he's been given free rein. Okay, this is apparently what the owners want. So this could be a very sticky wicket. Absolutely.
Well, Vilma might not be the only one. Fujita with the Browns said he may join in something like that, even though he's getting a few games. Because he goes, my reputation's clear. He goes, my daughter was being born, and I got this notice from somebody else through some, other online service or something and told him about it. He goes, I was supposed to be enjoying the birth of my daughter, and look, I hear this on the street basically. And my reputation's been clean before all of this, so what are they talking about? So maybe he has a point.
Yeah, I guess we're going to have to wait once again until it's litigated, which will probably take some time, by the time I'm 60. And it just might get, adjudicated.
And you're only 35 right now? It'll be a while.
Yeah. And I would love to see a class action suit against the commissioner. You guys know I don't like him. And most of the people that will be coming forth in a class action suit against him are some of the ones that he was hugging on draft day. But I think the guy that needs to join is Terrell Pryor. Everybody knows my feeling about Terrell Pryor. I think he's the greatest player in southwestern Pennsylvania high school history. This is a guy who was penalized by Roger Goodell, a former bartender when he was a student at Washington and Jefferson, and now he's supposedly above a reproach. This is a guy that penalized Terrell Pryor for what he did in college and brought that to the National Football League, something that never happened ever before. Terrell Pryor, I think, has money damages. You look at Ryan Tannehill, an outstanding quarterback from Texas A&M. His first 2 years at Texas A&M, he was a wide receiver. He's never passed a completion percentage over 50%. Only was a 2-year starting quarterback at Texas A&M. He was the 8th pick overall in the draft by the Miami Dolphins. That could have been Terrell Pryor. He could have been a top 10 pick. Not only was he not a top 10 pick, but he was penalized going into the supplemental draft last year. He also was unable to do OTAs because, of course, there was a lockout. When he got there, he couldn't play in any exhibition games. And he couldn't play any regular season games. He was suspended the first 5 or 6 games. And then when he came, the guy that drafted him, Al Davis, died. So I think that a lot of players need to get into a class action suit and get Roger Goodell booted out of here. And if he want to hug, he can join the talking machine in the hug-a-thon.
Oh, nice PR. But his hugs were a little, I don't know, strange. I don't want to say creepy, because I don't think you can say that about that. But he lingered a little too long on the hugs. We'll give you proper techniques on the hugs. I'll tell you that much, Smoking Jim. But that went across the line. Now, here's an interesting fact since we're on NFL this evening. Do you realize now they're going to have to wear hip pads and knee pads?
Why?
For safety.
Why would a player
And to set
not
an
wear
example.
pads? I mean, if I'm playing professional football, and I don't care if I'm 6'8" and 340 pounds, I'm going to want to try to protect as much of my body as possible. I mean,
well, now
you've got these big human missiles coming at you with helmets on them, and you're not playing with pads.
But that's going to slow them down. See, these guys take all the pads off. Smoking Jim will tell you. Some of them wear, who knows if they have a jock strap and a cup anymore.
But I don't know
so they can run
how
faster.
knee pads and thigh pads are going to do anything about concussions, unless you've got...
and I agree with you guys. I wonder where it all started that these guys stopped wearing thigh, hip, and knee pads. You look at Franco Harris; he had them all the way up from his hips all the way up to under his shoulders. But it's because the league has gotten so soft. It's now that these guys are soft as putty and they're rising to stardom. Like Jack Lambert said a long time ago, put skirts on them, not just on the quarterback, but everybody on offense. Because if you're running around without thigh and knee pads and hip pads, the game has turned into two-hand tag and not collision.
Well, here to tie in with the quarterback, since you mentioned, did you see how Big Ben said there's not a problem? It's just he was comfortable with 8 years. Him and Todd Haley will get along fine. And your man Todd looked pretty slick on the sidelines. He had a cap on, shorter hair, shorts that looked clean, and a Steeler jersey.
Wow,
I saw him on a preview on TV.
Might have been Photoshopped.
No, I don't know. It looked like it was live when they were doing it. Big Ben looked a little grimy with a beard-like, and he wasn't a blonde-haired quarterback either today. So, just a little scouting report from the talking machine here, buddy. So I don't know what's going on there.
But I know one thing is, we got to talk about Mike Wallace. Mike Wallace is from Mississippi, and I have yet to meet a brain surgeon from Mississippi. Hey, listen, Mike Wallace. You're from Mississippi. I ain't never met nobody that could split an atom from Mississippi. Wallace, you'd be lucky to be able to split a peanut. Listen, I'm hard on a lot of guys. I'm usually got your back when you hold out. Wallace, you were a 3rd round draft pick. You're guaranteed this year $2.5 million by signing the tender. You've never made over $500,000 in one season. Now you're going to make $2.5 million and you feel like you're being disrespected. Get in there early, come in shape, have another Pro Bowl season, and you got $9-10 million a year in your future. I think it's very dumb and stupid for Mike Wallace and his agent to hold out, especially when the best receiver on the team is Antonio Brown.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think Mike Wallace does need to sign the tender and come in and prove to them that he is worth a bigger money contract. I think he's probably taking bad advice from his agent, and it could end up hurting him, because if he comes into camp late, or doesn't sign the tender and signs it at the last minute, comes into camp late and pops a hamstring and spends the rest of training camp on the bike, he's not going to get a chance to be able to prove that he's worth the $8 or $9 million that Jim says it can be in his future.
And I was at the Pittsburgh Passion game on Saturday, and they promoted that the honorary captain of the game was none other than Emmanuel Sanders, the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver. Emmanuel Sanders was a no-show, just like he was most of the 2011 season.
Well, give us a little report. Forget him. If he didn't show,
tell us how the Passion did.
What was the final score in the game? Because I fell asleep when I heard it was 49-0 at halftime, my friend.
Well, you know what? I was there with my assistant, China, and all eyes was on China. I tell you what, she looked beautiful. And we got there, and the Pittsburgh Force, it was a home game for the Pittsburgh Force. They played at Steel Valley High School. I'm not sure if Charlie Batch played there or not, because there's not a name. His name is nowhere around the field, but maybe Charlie can sponsor some of the bleachers and get his name in there at Campbell Field. But I tell you what, the Force came out fired up. They were ready to play. Opening kickoff, they took it 40 yards. They was moving the ball, passing and running at midfield, but a quarterback, the center exchange, there was a fumble. Pittsburgh Passion recovered, and the rest is history. The Pittsburgh Passion probably has the most sophisticated offense in the entire country, and them girls didn't need Rosetta Stone to learn it. And I tell you what, it was 49-0 at halftime. All the air was out of the bubble, but I tell you what, the Force didn't give up. They played well in the second half. The Passion took it a little bit easy on them. Ended up being 66-0. But I tell you what, I talked to the owner of the Force after the game, and we talked throughout the game. She had the time, and her name is Kathy Ferrari, and she says that, hey, even the New England Patriots get blown out every once in a while. Only difference is they get millions for it. So I had a lot of fun. And don't forget that the national championship game will be the first time ever a women's football game is played in a professional stadium. It's going to be at Heinz Field this year on August 4th. I believe the Pittsburgh Passion will be there. I believe they're going to win the national championship. And hey, who just says that Heinz Field is only good for 8 times a year? We're going to get a 9th one this year with the women's championship. Go Heinz Field.
No, that's some great stuff. And I also saw in Pittsburgh Magazine, it was Terry Kahn was there, the owner of the football team, and Lisa Horton. There was an article about her and her business, how she left it. She has this D1 business. It's a sports training center up in Greentree. My whole hometown stomping grounds there.
Wow.
Right up there. So right in the magazine, page 22 and 23, if you need to know, Pittsburgh Magazine. And I have no interest with that company at all, so it's a disclaimer here.
Yeah.
I'm not promoting them. We're always trying to spread the good word about people in Pittsburgh, and it's our opinions here too, folks.
And Lisa Horton, she didn't go deep, but she did throw 4 touchdowns in the first half, so I'm trying to figure out whether she still got some oomph in that arm. But she was throwing it short, and the receivers was taking it the distance. But she's a great leader.
Well,
back
maybe
there.
she learned from some of the NFL quarterbacks from this Western Pennsylvania area. Didn't Joe Montana have a career like that?
Yes, he did. He
So
sure did.
maybe she's following in his footsteps.
Could
Get
be.
another championship.
Not a bad place to tread.
No.
And then another hero of ours, and I know Mike's not here, so this will probably raise his blood pressure, but a Pittsburgh guy become governor named Tom Corbett. So they made a proclamation that Hines Ward got some award for being, a humanitarian. So he was in Harrisburg today, getting something from the governor, promoting what he is.
Did they make him tap dance up there?
No, he didn't do any dancing on that show. He promised afterwards for a few autographs.
But we got to send out our condolences. Bill Stewart,
Yes,
former
sir.
coach of West Virginia University. Of course, I thought he was older than 59.
He looked it.
He dropped dead playing golf.
Yesterday.
And he was backstabbed by a local writer here from Pittsburgh, Colin Dunlap. Dunlap broke the story when Bill Stewart, they brought in the coach in waiting, and Bill Stewart went to Colin Dunlap, who was a beat reporter for West Virginia University, and other beat reporters to dig up some dirt on the coach in waiting, who had a history of DUIs. And Colin Dunlap decided to promote his own career by backstabbing Stewart a little bit and letting everybody know what was said behind closed doors. But and Joe Paterno passed away. So these coaches who
Broken
are
hearts?
shortly,
Are you thinking it's a broken heart
these
syndrome
coaches
here?
who are shortly removed from the head position seem to be dying within a year. I guess that's why Dave Wanstead took that Buffalo job quick.
Well, it goes back to Bear Bryant. That's what scared Joe Paterno out of ever retiring.
Wow.
When he died within a couple months of when he was retired.
Wow.
So
I
there's been many
thought
others.
what scared Joe Paterno was if he retired too soon, his son Jay wouldn't have a job.
Smoking Jim. You're one of the best there. How about the Buccos tonight? What do you guys think about the Buccos?
Last night was impressive. They get out.
Hold it. First talk about the game before, and then we'll go to the highlight game last night.
Okay.
The game before, they're winning 4-2, and a ball gets thrown right over almost the middle of the plate, and somehow a catcher, who they got this Barajas for his defensive abilities, he can't catch a ball that hits him in the chest. And it goes down his arm behind him, and they end up beating us.
And when you notice that the games that the Pirates are losing, the games that they've lost recently are every single one of them are games that they could have won. And and right now, you look at the type of a product that the Pirates are putting on the field, and it's on a par with anything that's available right now in the major leagues. Just looking through the standings, leafing through them in the paper this morning. You're looking at the teams with the $200 million payrolls. You got the Yankees, you got the Red Sox.
Hold it, they're all in last place.
They've got the Angels, and you've got the Phillies. And yes,
You want
by
a
the
stat?
way,
You want a stat
that
over-
$200 million payroll doesn't guarantee you first place. Wouldn't it be nice to see a bunch of different teams in the playoffs this year? Wouldn't it even be better to see the Pirates fighting for a wild card spot as the summer goes on? It's not out of the realm of possibility. The way they're playing,
And the weakest
have-
division that they have here. It's very weak.
It's there. You know what? Look across all the divisions in baseball. There's no real runaway contender this year. I mean, Detroit, they're a team everybody was picking to go far with Justin Verlander, the kind of year he had last year, and they're just, I think, a game under 500.
Wait a second, we barely got a hit against them.
Oh, you know what?
Right?
Come on, the guy's probably the best pitcher in
Okay,
baseball
well-
right now. Let's give him his props.
No hitter, were you?
I always cheer for a no-hitter. Even if it's against my Buccos. But
Whoa, you heard that, fans.
no,
He's
you know
off
what? I'm
the
a fan.
bandwagon.
I'm a fan, and I'm telling
I'm
you right
teasing
now. The Pirates are putting a good product on the field, and they've got a lot of good young players. And Andrew McCutchen is just as hot as a player can be. He had 2 games
He's
within a
earning the
3-game
51
period.
million.
He had two home run games.
Wow.
That's I tell you what, the kid's living up to the contract he signed, and actually it's looking now like this Pirates got one heck of a deal for the money they signed him for, because
He signed too early.
well, you know what? But you roll
Who's
the
his
dice.
agent?
You roll the
Who's his
dice.
agent? Come on now.
You roll the dice. And well, you ever hear the word renegotiate? I'm sure his agent.
You ever hear a cheap owner that has a losing legacy say, "We're going to renegotiate"? I'll trade you next year. He'll say.
But last night, the Buccos,
last night. Get something good here.
Last night the Pirates went down 4-0, and they came back and they squeaked out a win. They beat the Mets 5-4. They're 20-22 now, I believe.
Yes, they're 20-22. I confirmed that before I left.
They're hovering near that that break-even mark, but all they need is to put together a nice little winning streak, and I think that they can make some noise this year. They're definitely.
Well, last night's game, I have my biggest fans watching me all the time here. Mm-hmm. Well, I was talking to a couple of my biggest fans last night, and they go, "Are you watching the Pirate game?" I said, "No, I didn't think I'd watch it till later." They go, "Well, they're losing 2-0. Then I'm talking a little further. It's 4-0. Mm-hmm. So I said, biggest fan, and other fan, I'm not going to watch the game. So they go, "We're going to bed." So I go, I'm contrary. I go and watch the game at my house. All of a sudden, they're coming back.
Didn't Barajas hit a sacrifice fly to win the game?
Well, this is what I'm telling you. He was a goat. He apologized. Now he's a hero. So isn't baseball great? 162 games of excitement. One game you're a goat.
That hit,
next game you're the hero.
That hit that Neil Walker got that put him on third base.
Tell the fans that missed that so-called catch.
That so-called catch. Here it was. The ball was flying out to the outfielder. It looks for certain to be an out. And the next thing you know, Neil Walker's on third base.
They almost collided, and luckily neither player in the outfield got hurt. They were just embarrassed.
Divine intervention is what I call it.
Was anybody surprised that Neil Walker took off for home?
No.
He was coming.
No. Did you see him chugging there? And that throw was just off a little bit, or he's out. So divine intervention come in again.
And that's the kind of ball that Clint Hurdle plays, and that's what makes the Pirates exciting. They don't have a guy standing there on third base watching the fly ball to the outfield. You know what? They're trying to make plays. They're trying to win games. Yes, they stumble and fall every now and again, but I'm telling you what, better things are on the horizon for him.
Didn't Hurdle just bench a player for loafing?
He's done that before. He did that to Ronnie Cedeno last year, and Ronnie Cedeno was actually able to play his way out of Pittsburgh last year.
And he's doing much better. I think he has a higher average than most of our teammates here.
But you know what? Ronnie Cedeno was a loafer. I'll tell you what. He put in effort when it was convenient for him. And there was so many times I saw him not run balls out or just give up on a ball that's hit towards his position.
Did you get heat stroke or something today? You're always the nicest guy about these players here. You're like the emperor. We put you next to the emperor.
I was happy to see them get rid of him because I knew that he was not a shortstop that the Pirates could win with.
So was I.
Moving forward.
And Alvarez made a great throw. But has his back cooled off a bit?
I think he's at 213, which is rather large for him.
What's the Mason-Dixon line?
No, it's the Mendoza line.
Mendoza line.
If you're above 200, my friend.
Okay. A former Pirate shortstop,
he'll give you
it was nicknamed that because his batting average was never much over 170.
Right. He didn't get to 200, so
his weight got to 200 before his batting average. But you know what? Pedro Alvarez is proving that he is a viable option, and he's playing very well in the field. And the hits the hits will start rolling in for him. I mean, he dug himself a pretty big hole to start the year in, but now I think the reason why McCutchen's so hot at bat because now that there's somebody behind him that can drive the ball. I mean, obviously we'd like to see a better batting average out of him, but you know what? He does carry a stick, and he can put the ball in the seats.
Hey, Chip, unless he starts hitting like Dave Kingman did, where you're hitting 35, 40 home runs and you're hitting 220, I say minor leagues, my friend.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about here. Minor leagues, let him find himself. Let these guys leave him alone because they said, look, we're spending these millions on him. The kid, we can't get him out of the minor leagues. He's a superstar. And then when he's hitting 30 by July, 30 home runs, and hitting 280, come on up. Just a theory thing. So far I'm wrong. You guys are right. He's got, still 7 home runs? Or did he get more than that? I didn't keep track because McCutcheon,
you know what?
has 7 now.
I'm not real sure what his stats are. You know, I've been real busy lately, but I do follow up on the box scores and the Pirate games, and you know, it breaks my heart when they lose these close ones. But I think they've probably played more one-run games than any team in the majors this year.
And when they score 2 runs, they have some amazing statistics. They're 18-9 when they score 2 runs, and then when they score over 4 runs. They were like undefeated, but now they've taken a couple hits. But some of those records are just unreal. But they do only have 20 wins in a quarter of the season.
I believe at one point they, you know, in any game that they held the lead after the 6th inning, you know, they closed them out pretty well. So that's there's a lot of positives and a lot of fun. And I'm telling you what, a night down at PNC Park's a great way to spend an evening this summer.
You have any free tickets for us, or is that a?
I'll work on them.
Okay.
I'll work on them.
We'll come down there with you.
And one thing that I do know that they got right with Alvarez, it's not real easy. From the Dominican Republic, they got his birth certificate right, so we're happy about that. That's not always
Is he 30
the case.
years old?
But you know what? You know, and I'd like to say this about Pedro Alvarez. You know, for all the criticism that he's gotten in the last year and a half, I do believe this young man has handled it very well and as a very, very good professional. Because you know there have been players that have gotten less criticism and have been cancers to their teams, to the fans, to the sports writers. And I tip my hat to him because he's taken it all and he's kept his mouth covered. He keeps a good attitude. He keeps on plugging away and he's not pointing fingers at anybody. I got to give him credit for that, and I really wish him well, and I'd like to see him succeed here in Pittsburgh for those reasons.
I'll give him credit for coming into shape, the best shape that I've seen him coming in, because you see a lot of players that don't, and maybe that's why he can make those throws from deep third base in the hole and run up, get those barehanded ball, you know, and throw it there. So he's done some nice things because he's in shape. Now the hitting, I hope it comes around because he can hit the hell out of the ball.
Yeah,
he does. What do you? Go ahead.
Let me ask you guys this, not to change the subject, but what do you guys think about the Hall of Fame in most sports? Like in basketball, for example, most people know I don't like Dennis Rodman. Right. If you lock Dennis Rodman in a gymnasium for an hour, he couldn't score 20 points. I don't know how this guy gets into the Hall of Fame. Of course, off the court, he's had his share of troubles. What do you guys think about, say, Dennis Rodman going into the Hall of Fame?
Well, you know, that Dennis Rodman going to the Hall of Fame kind of like parallels Bill Mazeroski going to the Hall of Fame, and in the aspect that Bill Mazeroski got to the Hall of Fame not because of the home run in the 1960 World Series, because he was the best defensive second baseman, which is not a glamorous position. You're not going to get on the cover of Sports Illustrated, you know, being a great defensive second baseman. Dennis Rodman, what his knack was when he played basketball, he could rebound like nobody else. And that's really where his forte is. And, you know, I think him making the Hall of Fame is probably more of a tribute to that. And then also the fact that, you know, he got to ride on Michael Jordan's coattails for 3 seasons, which got him championships. But he won 2 championships with Isaiah Thomas, you know, at Detroit in the in the early 90s. But I mean, as a defensive force, I mean, he was second to none when he had his head into the game.
Only coattails he was riding was Madonna's. But speaking of the NBA, everybody knows I'm an NBA playoff fan, and I tell you what, we've been getting some great NBA playoffs. I tell you what, San Antonio, that's kind of riding the big fella, DeJuan Blair from Shenley. And San Antonio looks like they got a good chance to do something.
I made a prediction at the beginning of the NBA playoffs, and I felt Oklahoma City was going to win it all. And I'm going to stick with my prediction. I'm not going to get off that horse, but I do think this very strongly. I think the winner of the NBA championship this year is coming out of the Western Conference, whether it is San Antonio or Oklahoma City. And I think those two are better teams than Miami is. Miami probably has better talent with Wade and LeBron James, but that little ugly demon raised its head with the Miami Heat, which is one of the reasons why I believe that they will fall apart. Dwayne Wade starts sniping at the coach because the coach says something to him in the game, you know. Doesn't show very much respected. And you listen to what LeBron James says, and he talks about I. You know, somebody from the Indiana Pacers is trying to goad him into fighting on the court. Well, my team needs me. You know, so he's not going to get into a fight because I'm the difference. Instead of, I'm a member of a team and everybody plays together. And I think ultimately at the end of the day that Oklahoma City and San Antonio definitely are better teams, better coached, and I think that's going to tell the tale. But
I'm not going to change my horse since we're talking horses, and I'll talk about that later because I have some horse talk for you. But I said Miami Heat. LeBron, look how aggressive he's been at times. Not every game now, Smoking Jim, but he has been aggressive. Look what he had. What was it? 40 points, 18 rebounds, 9 assists.
Wow.
No question. He's had
and
one of the
my
best
point
seasons
is they do have a good
recent
defensive team. And when you have some defense in the NBA during the playoffs, as it's your time, that can win you a game if you have your key man, LeBron, make a basket for the last shot.
Well, here's the thing. The coach is the man that's supposed to be guiding the team. And the coach is supposed to give directions to the players. And when the players don't want to listen to the coach because they know better, I think that's just a problem. Waiting for a place to happen. And when you get into the NBA Finals, everything is magnified, every mistake. And if they've got that bickering going on there, they're not concentrating on what they need to do and beating the other team. And I think that could be telling.
And I'm with the talking machine. I said all year long that Miami Heat, because I believe LeBron's the second best player in NBA history behind Wilt Chamberlain. And but I think the secret weapon is going to be when Bosh gets over his tummy ache, if he can come back healthy. But I agree that San Antonio is deep on the bench, and when you got Westbrook and Durant with Oklahoma City. They're going to be outstanding.
And don't forget about Harden. Harden's playing nice.
Yes,
they got those three right there, and they're getting great production out of all three of them.
But what if somebody goes cold? If one of those guys goes cold, then they don't have anybody else picking that slack up. That's what I don't see on those teams. You got your 3 guys, 2 guys.
And I'll tell you what, Tim Duncan, if he is not the most underrated player in the NBA, I mean, the guy has just been nothing but one of the top professionals ever since he came into the league. I mean, he's got 4 championships under his belt, and if we didn't mention that, nobody would know it.
Right.
I mean, he is not the kind of person that walks around tooting his own horn all the time. I mean, he's just, as big men go, I think right now in the NBA, he's simply the best.
That's true. And since we got a little pause here, how about the horse race? Did you see the horses on Saturday at the Preakness?
Wow.
Now, you had that Bodemeister, and everybody was saying he would win the race, and you had I'll Have Another. They were saying, well, can he do it again? Now the Preakness is a 16th of a mile longer, and Bodemeister's a front runner. And just for you amateurs that don't know, they like to go to the front end, and they just go as fast as they can depending on how the jockey rates them. And he just got beat by a few lengths in the Derby. He lost by a neck in this race. It was a great race.
Wow.
And
Now,
it was exciting the
of
whole
the 3
time.
Triple Crown races, are they 3 different distances?
Yes, they are, and I'm getting to that point
Okay.
too. Now, this is the in-between
know.
race. The
Yeah.
Belmont is a mile and a half, and that's almost setting up for the first Triple Crown winner in 34 years. That's how long it's been. That's the longest streak that it's gone in history for Triple Crown winners. And he has a great chance because he's a closer. He can sit back behind the pack, just like your sprinters. Some of them sit back, some of them go to the front end. As you get to the 200 meters, a half mile, or 400 meters, and a mile, you'll notice some guys can come from behind, just like horses there. They're great athletes, and that's what happens. So I'll give you a little prediction. I'll Have Another wins the Triple Crown. And then I'm going to spin to another sport. I don't know if you guys call it a sport, but there's so much race car events coming up. You have Formula One in Monaco, you have the Coca-Cola 600, and you have the classic Indianapolis 500. Who doesn't at least turn the TV on to watch the Indianapolis 500? Right? I mean, even for a minute or two, just to hear Jim Neighbors sing a song.
And they do a lot of hugging in NASCAR.
And
they
thank
call
you
it,
for the plug.
And they call it bumping each other's bumper.
Yeah. I mean, generally what I do at the Indianapolis 500, and I think the Indianapolis 500 lost its luster a number of years ago when there was the IRL, there was CART, there was IRL, and they got everything mixed up and confused and everything. Is I usually just wait till Sports Center and then watch the 18-car pileup, instead of having to sit there for 3 hours and wait for it.
Well, to my biggest fans out there who are watching us tonight, and they enjoy the car racing scene, I thank you for the inside information on it, and I knew they'd support me here.
Yeah, but I mean, the NASCAR does have a tremendous following, but I mean, 4 left turns, and and that's about as complicated as it gets, but. It's lost its luster, and I think part of the reason why NASCAR isn't as popular as it was maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago is there's no dominant racing team anymore. Every week there's a new winner. It's almost like the PGA Tour. People are you're playing golf. When Tiger Woods was winning, you were paying attention because you wanted to see how Tiger would do. Was he going to break Jack Nicklaus's record? But now, you got Joe Blow and Sam, what's his name out there, and there's nobody to identify with. One of the things that I find so interesting about NASCAR is that one of the biggest stars in NASCAR, Dale Earnhardt Jr., hasn't won a race in 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
How do you become a big star in a sport where you don't win?
Wow.
See, people that win the NASCAR or Sprint Cup championship, you don't really have to win races to do that. All you have to do is finish in the top 5 or the top 10, and you end up in the top of the top 10 in points. And and they should put some emphasis on winning races. And if they did that, I think they could get more interest, and then guys would be a little bit more aggressive about the way they just ride around, try to avoid the wrecks, and hey, I finished in the top 10, I'm good. I'm going to the playoffs.
Chip, we're going to have a little NASCAR segment here, and just go over this information like that. I'll have to get some inside tips from my biggest fans who used to go to different races.
I'm sure it was a live event. It's amazing. I had a friend that went down to the Daytona 500 a number of years ago. He's like, you should definitely put that on your bucket list. Like that, and going to the Indy 500.
And the Kentucky Derby and events like that.
Well, Chip watches NASCAR the same way that I watch basketball. The last 2 minutes,
I didn't know you were a NASCAR fan too.
San Antonio Spurs was down 24 points to the LA Clippers in the fourth quarter. I turned it on in the last 2 minutes, and it was all tied up.
I will tell you, I'm going to pay attention to that San Antonio-Oklahoma City series. I think you're probably going to see some of the best basketball you'll see this year.
Well, Smoking
Call
Jim
me at the 2-minute mark.
Well, here's what I want. My son, he's always telling me, Drew always goes, if there's 8 points, it's 8-point margin, 10-point margin with like a minute to go, he goes, Dad, they're still in the game. Because I'm not a big fan of the playoffs till the final. Well, so I'll have to tune in with you. See what you think, too. You can give me that inside info.
You watch the NCAA tournament, and the last minute of the game usually takes an hour and a half.
Well, yeah.
Because they foul everybody every 4 seconds.
There's no doubt. What sport didn't we cover here today? Any tennis on your bucket list here? Or?
No. No. Tennis. I don't think so.
Okay, I just thought maybe we'd get some.
What I like about Wimbledon is when it ends. There's 14 days of torture, and then it ends, okay? And they announce a champion.
But, the one thing we didn't cover is this guy's whining and crying. How can you whine and cry about somebody else's money? Drew Brees. Everybody's like, pay Drew Brees, pay Drew Brees. First of all, I think the New Orleans Saints probably made Drew Brees a heck of an offer. Drew Brees and his people wanted to be the highest paid player in the National Football League. Well, Drew, you're not the best player in the National Football League. These guys are saying, hey, you got to, with everything going on, Drew Brees is the face of the New Orleans Saints. Well, years ago, Archie Manning was the face of the New Orleans Saints. There would be a different face. Hey, Drew Brees, if you want, quit negotiating your contract in the media. I think the deal will get done. There's not a whole lot of money available right now because the owner bought the basketball team, the Hornets. That's where your money went. But I get tired of these guys who are getting offered $20 million but say it's a slap in the face. Come on, Drew Brees. You know, you're going to have more money than you can ever spend in 10 lifetimes unless your name is Allen Iverson. So be happy.
Or T.O.
Yeah, or T.O. That's what I heard T.O.'s, bro. He was on Dr. Phil.
How did that happen?
He was on Dr. Phil. But, you know, speaking of the face of the Saints, I can remember when the face of the Aints was a paper bag.
Yes.
Over somebody's head. And, you know, and it's just amazing. I mean, you know, these guys get paid so much money. And, you know, when is enough enough? I mean, the offer that he was probably made will set any of us up for several lifetimes and for our children's children. You know, it amazes me that, you know, they turn these into issues. I mean, really, who cares?
Yeah, but look at why. Our man Magic Mike, he said he'd take $1 million. He'd play without a helmet even. If you're paying him $1 million, he'd say. But again, it's that competitive nature. If there's a guy making $15 million and you're making $11 million, okay, that's how they keep score. He wants to make $16 million because he won the Super Bowl.
You know,
it doesn't make it right.
I've been managing people for the last 20 years, and you know, and I have guys at work, and I tell them, you know, you don't discuss what you're getting paid with anybody, okay? But okay, with the professional sports, it's in the newspaper, it's on ESPN, so everybody knows. And people would complain, well, why is he getting more than me? And I'm like, you know, here's what you should be asking yourself: are you doing your job to the best of your ability? Because if you are, and you know, everything will work itself out, and you'll get what you got coming to you. If you're sitting there worried about me and what I'm making, then you're wasting a lot of time and energy that you could be putting towards being more productive.
And I tell you what, a good example is a guy that I met a number of years ago with Louis Lips. He was here back when Monroeville had the Holiday House.
Wow.
Yes.
And I had so much respect for him. Didn't nobody know who he was. And he was in his second year in the NBA, and that was Michael Jordan. Standing there in the Holiday House, hanging out with me, Louis Lips, Barry Bonds. And Michael Jordan had a black red pinstripe Adidas, jogging outfit. Wasn't no Air Jordans back then. But the one thing about Michael Jordan that I had a lot of respect for, this is a guy who made more money in endorsements than probably any other player whose name wasn't Tiger Woods. And he's never, ever was the highest paid player in the National Basketball Association. Most of the times he wasn't even the highest paid player on his team. Mm-hmm. But he understood that, number one, that, you know, he wanted to be out there and he didn't want to miss any time. And he understood that what you make in salary is small to what you can make in endorsements. Mm-hmm. And he's a very smart guy. Matter of fact, just this week I bought my first pair of Air Jordans. So, the prices really come down. You know, third world countries must have sent overabundance, but I was able to get a pair for right around $100. So
well, that's like 10 years ago what they were going for.
Well, they had some for like $300, but I think I switched some of the prices.
That wasn't your league then.
Yeah, but when you wear size 14 shoes, a lot of times you can get them. You can get some a little cheaper than others.
Where are they at tonight? We could have showed it on camera.
Yeah, I should.
What color should I look for?
Black and white, man.
You are black and white.
I'm black and white guy, man.
That's why I wore this.
No
That's why I wore this.
No shades of gray, right? No shades
of
gray.
Shades.
Yeah,
you guys are name droppers here.
He tells it like it is, right?
But you know, I always hit my pet peeve was always guys who negotiated in the paper. You know, you got guys who really, especially around in southwestern Pennsylvania, to work hard for a living. This is a blue-collar area, even though we're a corporate city now. We got a lot of people that go to work every day with their lunch pails and work hard. I don't feel sorry for none of these prima donnas that make a lot of money. I agree that these guys should get all that they're going to get, but I don't want to hear about it in the media. You know, if Drew Brees doesn't play next year, I used to watch NFL football when the Scabs used to play. You know, I don't watch the games for the name on the back of the jersey. I watch the games for the name on the front of the jersey. And when Drew Brees is long gone and retired, the New Orleans Saints will still be playing, just like the Utah Jazz is still playing, and they used to be from New Orleans at one time. So, you know, hey, No, I could care less about Drew Brees. And Drew Brees made me mad last year when he came out and said the reason that the retired NFL players are having a hard time is because they lived above their means. Drew Brees, you need to do your homework, and you need to realize that that statement is coming back to bite you in the behind. So.
A lot of those players had other jobs. How many guys were selling insurance, selling coal, working in department stores?
The thing is with these players that they have a good game or they have a good season, okay, and all of a sudden they want to get paid with the best, okay. The best, were the best over a long period of time, and they set a standard. I mean, how many one-hit wonders have there been? We've seen hundreds of them, thousands of them, and just because a guy has a good year, okay, show me what you can do next year. Show me that you can bring that this year, next year, and the following year. Then maybe you might be worth the money that you're talking about. But, just because you caught a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl doesn't mean that you're entitled to a $50 million contract.
And you can be a great player. I remember when I used to talk to Emmanuel Sanders when he first came to the Steelers.
Did I hear you say used to?
Yeah, used to, a.k.a. Tenderfoot. And I remember Emmanuel Sanders, he was upset because he wanted number 17. Mike Wallace had 17. Obviously, he never watches the NFL from SMU. And then he got mad because the Steelers gave him 88, and I let him know that was Lynn Swan's jersey, a Hall of Famer, so he kind of liked that because he wanted 19. But, these guys don't realize that, there was a legacy before they got here.
Well, they don't know the history.
There's a standard.
It's all entertainment.
There's
There's
a standard that was set that is expected.
And the thing is, Emmanuel Sanders had really no idea of the impact that Hines Ward had, not only in football, because he didn't know Hines Ward. Right. See, certain players are superstars in your area, but they're not superstars beyond nationally. Right. You look at Drew Brees. Drew Brees come here with the New Orleans Saints. He's not going to sell one extra ticket. But Peyton Manning, wherever he goes, the ticket sales it's going to be a sellout.
Good point.
People are going to fight to when the Dallas Cowboys. One year, I had friends that sold their ticket to the Dallas Cowboy games when we opened up against the Cowboys a few years ago for $800 for a season ticket game. Wow. And the Cowboys weren't even that good. Right. That's when Deion Sanders was playing with the Cowboys at that time. So there's certain people that generate that. Tebow, even though a lot of people don't think he's a great player, Tebow will generate more interest than a Drew Brees, and that's things that you got to factor in. $20 million is never a slap in the face, I don't believe.
Not from where we're looking at it. That's the thing. We're looking bottom up.
Although what I love to see is, Drew got a birthmark on his face, and when Drew Brees won the Super Bowl, he was on the Oprah Winfrey show, and Oprah thought it was makeup and tried to wipe it off with a handkerchief.
Nah.
So I thought that was good.
Did he have some humble pie on that show?
Drew took it like a soldier, but Oprah tried to rub, but it wouldn't come off. She didn't realize.
He didn't argue with a billionaire, though, right? He knows about the money.
So even Oprah Winfrey didn't know much about the Super Bowl champion, Drew Brees, but I guarantee you if Peyton Manning would have had a birthmark, everybody would know. And, nobody tried to wipe off the little mold on Marilyn Monroe's face.
Hey, a little shout out
to history from everywhere.
A little shout out to Evgeny Malkin.
Wow, MVP.
The MVP of the World Championships. He continued on the torrid pace he set in the NHL this year, and I think there is no question who is the best hockey player in the world right now. Evgeny Malkin's got to be number one, and Sidney Crosby's number two until. His level. He hasn't played enough in the last year and a half to really be able to be considered number one. And he may end up being number one again. But Evgeny Malkin had quite an impressive year and quite an impressive run at the World Championships.
Well, do you think he played better with that style of hockey, or was?
Well, I think he grew up on that European style of hockey. There's a lot more passing, a lot less
more
physicality.
Finesse.
And, he grew up playing that game, and I think, he's more suited to it. A lot of the European players, when they first came over, started playing in the NHL and started getting banged around, It was their little wake-up call, like, oh my goodness, I'm in here with the big boys,
Well, people are still disappointed, even though he scored 8 points in 6 games, that he had a bad series at the end there, too, with Malkin. So, I mean, we would take that 8 points normally if we won, but because we didn't.
But,
so now it's like when he goes to Russia and they threaten his family and everything, and he plays better, because there's rumors about that all the time.
But I think especially here in Pittsburgh, and especially when it comes to hockey, I think our standards are so much higher than everybody else's. I mean, look, we had Mario Lemieux, we had the Penguins of the early '90s. Now we have Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Marc-Andre Fleury. We're spoiled when it comes to hockey talent, and I think we take a little bit of it for granted, and sometimes we don't appreciate what we've got here. And I think we should spend a little bit more time enjoying what we've got while it lasts, because it may not be much longer than next year, because Jordan Staal may be gone.
Right.
After this season, he could be eligible for free agency, and he may not want to be the starting center on the third line. When he can go to another team's going to throw $8 or $10 million at him. I mean, I couldn't blame the kid for going and taking the money. He's a young man. He's in his early 20s, mid 20s.
Like 23, I think.
You can't blame him. And how are the Penguins going to be able to keep everybody? Well,
you can't with the caps, and that's what makes it more fair throughout the league. It's not like baseball. Look at us with our losing legacy here. Hockey, we should enjoy it, but I want to go to the Steelers here. Look at how we had 12-4, and we were disappointed. Look how we're disappointed, and we don't win the Stanley Cup. How many cities aren't even in these playoffs and these type of roles, and those cities, aren't as thankful or whatever as we are? Look what we have.
You mentioned the Steelers, and this was a thought that was occurring to me when I, on the way over here, because I'm still sitting there thinking about, all the different moves the Steelers have made, trying to solidify the offensive line and everything. And you look at the level of talent in the AFC North. Pretty much we own the division for quite a while. Baltimore has put in a couple of strong seasons and has given us a big fight. And I'd be honest with you, I think across the board, the AFC North is going to be a vast improvement. I don't think there's going to be any AFC North team that's going to go 6-0 in the division this year. Cleveland's obviously going to be a better team. They've made some smart choices with their draft selections, picking up their running back from Alabama, picking up a quarterback. And the quarterbacks, it's a crapshoot. Cincinnati was a solid team last year, made the playoffs. And Baltimore, they got the best quarterback in football, right?
and real quick, as we wind down, that was good. I got to give credit where credit is due. Like I told you guys before, I believe that Kugler was a good offensive line coach, but I can't give you credit for what you're going to do. But now I give him credit for what he just did. He put pieces in the offensive line puzzle together. He moved Willie Colon, the left guard. He's going to open up, of course, with DeCastro at right guard. And, I tell you what, and when I talked to Kugler on draft day, he told me he doesn't like to play, all these guys in different positions. He liked to have them in solid positions. He did it. Whether I agree or disagree, I respect the man for what he did, and because of which I'm moving my record for the Steelers from 8-8 to 9-7.
And I tell you what, I think a 9-7 record could win the AFC North this year. Mark my words on that.
Well, on these happy, positive notes here in Bethel Park, I want to thank you all for watching our show. You can check us out on YouTube. Type in Pittsburgh Sportsline. You'll see our show. You can also call us 412-831-3304. Thanks again for watching, guys. We'll have a great show next week.